Okay, well, recording in progress. We're all being recorded for prosperity, so careful what you all say. Look, I'd like to welcome you all here for what is our, I think, fifth in our series of online round tables to commemorate the Queen's Baton Relay. That series is part of a strong programme of activity building up towards the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games in July. And of course, 2022 is a truly important year for the Commonwealth, with both the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kigali and the Commonwealth Games, as well as Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. And for those of you who can see the landscape behind me, those are the foothills of Kigali in Rwanda. And I hope we'll see some of you there during the Commonwealth Business Forum, which we're organising. We're delighted today to be partnering and on this series with the United Kingdom Department for International Trade to deliver a series of virtual roundtables as the Queen's Baton Relay travels right across the Commonwealth. And we hope very much that these will provide an entertaining and eye-opening discussion and help to build partnerships which span right across the Commonwealth. Look, the last 2 years have been pretty tough across the world and particularly across the Commonwealth, but we feel these engagements can really help restart and reinvigorate existing Commonwealth business relationships and create the opportunities to forge new ones. The Birmingham 2022 Queen's Baton Relay is a wonderful opportunity to utilise the amazing convening power of sport and leverage what we call the Commonwealth advantage to promote new trading opportunities between the West Midlands region and the Commonwealth. And most of us know by now, I hope, that the Commonwealth advantage, which I've just referred to, makes it 21% cheaper to do business between Commonwealth countries. This Commonwealth advantage is an underutilised resource, one we intend to highlight in the lead in to the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. And that savings really based on a common language and a common legal system. It's a huge saving. But today, we're going to focus on Antigua and Barbuda, one of the Commonwealth's 32 small island states, and a long-standing and loyal member of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment, CWEIC. We're also delighted to be partnering with the government of Antigua and Barbuda, the University of the West Indies, the Commonwealth Secretariat, and the Association of Commonwealth Universities, and the Centre for the Environment, Fisheries and Aquaculture Science on the Centre of Excellence in Oceanography and the Blue Economy. This flagship partnership will draw on its strengths in commerce and academia to strengthen Antigua and Barbuda's transition to the blue economy and showcase the potential of Commonwealth collaboration and strength. It's very much the essence of what we can do when we work together as a Commonwealth, as Commonwealth partners. And I hope you'll all follow the Centre's development over the coming years. While the connections between Antigua and Barbuda and the West Midlands may not seem immediately obvious, the links between Antigua and Barbuda and the United Kingdom are long-standing and deep. However, both Antigua and Barbuda and the West Midlands are at the mercy of climate change, as we all are. We're all working towards developing solutions to mitigate its impact and develop sustainable solutions to the challenges which face us all. Today, this afternoon, here in the UK, wherever you are across the Commonwealth, we'll discuss the role of battling climate change, the role that business can have in battling climate change, how business bakes sustainability into their entire business model and activities, and most importantly, how companies from the UK and the West Midlands can better collaborate to meet these challenges. We're closer than ever to the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. It's only 75 days or so to go, I think. And colleagues on this call will share in the chat the links for you to register your interest in attending the wide array of business activity we have planned around the Games. And we'll be available to speak with anyone that would like more information on getting involved in some way. I would particularly like to thank during today's session, Her Excellency Karen May Hill, the High Commissioner to the United Kingdom from Antigua and Barbuda for convening such a strong contingent of business leaders. Your support for us and wider Commonwealth relationships is invaluable. I just say that again. And I hope and do believe we'll be seeing you and the Prime Minister in Rwanda at the end of the month for the Commonwealth Business Forum. I'm also delighted to welcome Darren Henry, Member of Parliament. He is trade envoy to the Caribbean Commonwealth today. Politics has changed so quickly. I stood down from the House of Commons at the last election in 2019, and Darren came in. And I think this is the first time that I will have met him. So Darren, nice to meet you or virtually meet you. Darren is the trade envoy to the Caribbean, and he's representing the United Kingdom government. I'm not sure if it will be seeing you in Rwanda in June, Darren, but the UK Prime Minister will be there leading a strong British delegation. But before I hand over to the High Commissioner and Darren, a little bit of housekeeping. After the opening remarks, we will show a short video introducing Birmingham as the next host of the Games, and then hear from Laura Ferguson, who's Regional Director, Caribbean Department for International Trade, on how DIT can support in connecting businesses in the region. We'll then move to a broader discussion on this part of the event. You will see the discussion points, and I'll invite you to make your intervention. We have a lot of people to get through, so please, can you keep to the 1 minute time limit? Next, I will open the floor to discussion. If you'd like to make a point, please use the chat room to attract my attention. We'll try and get around to you as long as everyone stays within their allocated time. And I'd be very grateful if you could keep yourself muted when you are not speaking. But so welcome again, and without further ado, over to you, Darren Henry.
Thank you very much, Sir Hugo. And it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time virtually as well, although there are other people on the call I have met in my time as the Prime Minister's trade envoy to the 12 Commonwealth countries of the Caribbean. So it's a pleasure to be here today. Welcome everyone to this exciting and hopefully thought-provoking discussion. Time to celebrate the Queen's Baton Relay being in Antigua and Barbuda, of course, in the run-up to the Commonwealth Games, which is being held in Birmingham this summer. Birmingham will host the Commonwealth Games between the 28th of July and 8th of August this year. So before we get to Games time, Birmingham 2022 is staging the 16th official Queen's Baton Relay, which is an epic journey across the Commonwealth, visiting all 72 nations and territories. The relay began on the 7th of October last year, with Her Majesty the Queen placing her message to the Commonwealth into the baton. Arriving in Antigua Barbuda today, the 59th destination out of the 72 Commonwealth nations and territories it will be visiting, the baton is now closing in on the completion of its tour around the Commonwealth before returning to the UK in June. The entire Queen's Baton Relay takes 294 days and brings with it the sincere intention that this collective journey will ignite hope, solidarity, and collaboration as it connects communities, embraces unique cultures, and also shares some inspirational stories. And I think that intention is fitting for this and our other business roundtables as well. The Department for International Trade, in partnership with the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, is delivering this and a number of other business roundtables during Queen's Baton Relay as part of the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games Business and Tourism Programme, which we hope will shine a spotlight on the opportunities that the West Midlands and UK has to offer for investment, trade, visitors, events, businesses, and students. Captivating hopefully up to 1.5 billion people across the world, we want to take this once in a generation opportunity to use the global profile generated by the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games to really showcase this wealth of opportunities and experiences available in the region and in the UK. The first time ever, This is an accredited Commonwealth Games programme, which has been developed by a partnership of regional, national and international organisations, all aiming to maximise the benefits that the Commonwealth Games can bring to the West Midlands and the UK. So as host city and country and the Commonwealth Games as a whole, and I've previously mentioned the Queen's Baton Relay will visit all of the nations and territories within the Commonwealth. But the Department for International Trade and the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council will be hosting these small and very select roundtables in only a limited number of targeted markets, one of which is, of course, Antigua and Barbuda. And as we recognise that the Commonwealth Caribbean is an important component of the Commonwealth trade and investment, and of course, the UK has a long-standing and cherished relationship with the Caribbean. I was immensely proud to be appointed as Prime Minister's first trade envoy to the Caribbean, which is fantastic for me. It's something that I was appointed to in October 2020, straight into COVID and a lot of virtual, but I have actually been in market once, and that was in November last year. But it's enabled me to engage and establish business relationships and friendships with counterparts and key stakeholders in the Caribbean. I'm genuinely looking forward to today's discussion, which will focus on a very important subject. And as trade envoy, I am relishing the role of supporting the UK government's overall strategy to drive economic growth, promote UK trade and encourage inward investment. We are all well aware of the environmental issues as well and challenges that we face globally, of course. Recognise it's a real imperative that we all come together to promote the sustainability and well-being of our planet. I believe that gathering the experts in this roundtable for a discussion on this matter will be a small step in the right direction. It's worth noting that the Department for International Trade and the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council Business Roundtables are only one element of the wider programme of events and activities aligned with the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. So colleagues and partners will be delivering their own events and missions to showcase the West Midlands in the UK. But we will all come together during the Games for a programme of events at the UK House in Birmingham, which will be at the heart of the business and tourism programme during the Games and the focal point for promoting the city, region and UK. So located in the centre of Birmingham, UK House will provide the platform as the main business, trade and tourism event of the business and tourism programme, hosting trade and investment summits, G2G, bilaterals and multilaterals and business support activity. So I do hope that some of you participating in this roundtable will have the opportunity to join some of the events at the UK House and experience in person all that the West Midlands and the UK has to offer. If you are going or are considering going to Birmingham around Games time, please do visit the website where visitors can register their interest in joining the activity at UK House. The team at CWEIC will put the link in the chat and will also circulate the link after this roundtable. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcomes for today's discussion, and I hope today's roundtable will be just the beginning of those participating to explore future opportunities for collaboration and partnership. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Darren Henry, for that. That was excellent. Before I hand over to the High Commissioner, can I just ask again, if you are not speaking, please put yourselves on mute. We were getting a bit of feedback from somewhere during Darren's piece there. But thank you again, Darren, very much indeed. And without further ado, over to you, High Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Sir Hugo, and good afternoon, good morning to everyone. I think it's extremely timely, Sir Hugo, and useful that we're having these discussions around sustainable solutions to strengthen our economic ties. And I say that for two reasons. I know that Laura Ferguson is currently leading a team on the ground in Antigua and Barbuda, a Department of International Trade team, for a one-week visit that concludes today with the baton, looking at ways that we can strengthen our ties between the UK and Antigua and Barbuda through trade, and also how we can breathe life into the Economic Partnership Agreement that sort of defines the trade relationship between CARIFORUM and the United Kingdom. So I'm delighted that is happening, Laura and RBC Thompson, and to your team, and look forward to hearing the results of your hard and very long week. I understand you had many meetings in Antigua at present. Secondly, I say that as well because currently we are in a hurricane season, and for the Caribbean, this is always a hand on heart moment, as we don't know what may come down the track for us with respect to hurricanes. What we do know is that having discussions around solutions and building partnerships around investing in solutions is of vital importance to the Caribbean, as climate change poses an existential threat to us. If I could say really quickly, Sir Hugo, Antigua is on an ambitious path of growth. As persons on this meeting would know, we have opened about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the fourth landed campus at the University of the West Indies. And its ambition is to be a center for regional academic work around artificial intelligence and the blue economy. We've also engaged in major investments in both our air and seaports to buttress our credentials as a transport and logistics hub. And in a matter of days, Antigua and Barbuda will host the 32nd Green Climate Fund board meeting. So lots happening on this tiny island. And persons have said, what's the link between Antigua and Barbuda and the West Midlands? Well, I was privileged to be in the West Midlands a couple of months ago for that event that was held around International Women's Day in March, and looking at trade and investment ties. And I think what we have in common, among other things, is the fact that we are often the overlooked and understood parts of where we're from. Often you're in the shadow of London, often we're in the shadow of bigger countries in the Caribbean region. But today, in this moment, and I'm happy that Darren is here as well to share in this webinar, we can actually showcase our credentials and seriously look at ways that the West Midlands and Antigua and Barbuda can actually accentuate those areas in which we have synergy and can develop. And so I just want to say to the West Midlands, congratulations on your work towards preparing for hosting the Games, which are just a few weeks away, I think less than 3 months away, so we can say weeks away. I look forward to celebrating that with you, but also to continuing those other sort of discussions around trade, investment, and taking our partnership and our friendships deeper and wider. I won't speak any longer because I'm anxious to hear what others have to say. Thank you for CWEIC and DIT for convening this. And please, over to you, Sir Hugo.
Thank you very much indeed, High Commissioner. Thank you for being so brief as well. I'm now going to hand over for a short video from Mike Freer, Member of Parliament, who's the Minister for Exports at the Department for International Trade.
In the summer of 2022, Birmingham will host the Commonwealth Games, the biggest sporting event the West Midlands has ever seen. And the Games are breaking records before they have even begun. They will be the fastest Games, delivered in 4.5 years rather than 7. The first ever carbon neutral Games, and the biggest Games, with the largest ever para-sports programme and more women's medals than men's for the first time. This will be the West Midlands moment. 1.5 billion people across the globe will tune in, creating a once-in-a-generation opportunity to showcase the region to new audiences. By working across the public and private sector, our business and tourism programme will enable the West Midlands to capitalise on the long-term economic opportunities generated by this global exposure. It will boost exports and attract inward investment, giving the region the shot in the arm required to recover from the pandemic. This programme is already delivering and is anticipated to create up to 900 jobs in the West Midlands, but its benefits will spread further. Another 500 jobs are expected to be created across the UK, and almost 1 billion of new overseas investment into the UK is forecast, whilst an estimated £12 million in extra visitor spend will provide much needed support to a tourism sector that has suffered globally throughout the pandemic. Through the Business and Tourism Programme, work with our Commonwealth partners will focus on 4 key sectors where the UK is already a world leader: data-driven healthcare, creative technologies, future mobility, and a modern business services sector. The programme will also support sectors including e-commerce, education, food and drink, and the sports economy. These games will bring so many nations together, allowing us all to show that we are open for business, open to partnerships, and ready to be at the forefront of global trade. By harnessing the opportunities the Games will bring, we will deliver economic growth and jobs of the future to the UK and the Commonwealth. And we hope that by working together, we can build this mutual prosperity for our countries. I do hope you all enjoy these prestigious Games, and I very much look forward to welcoming you to the West Midlands in 2022.
Well, thank you, Minister, if you can hear us. But I now want to hand over to Laura Ferguson. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you, Sir Hugo, and welcome to everyone on the line. And as you've heard from High Commissioner Hill, I am very much here in Antigua and Barbuda with the team this week, and we've had a really productive week. I thought it would just be useful for me to share a little bit about what we've been doing and what our purpose is. Why is DIT here on the ground in the Caribbean? So this week, we've been very much exploring business opportunities in Antigua and Barbuda for UK companies. And we've been building awareness and engagement with the private and public sector here of our free trade agreement, which we call the CARIFORUM UK Economic Partnership Agreement. So I just want to explain a little bit about why we're here and why DIT has a presence across the Commonwealth Caribbean. And we're here fundamentally to open markets, increase trade liberalisation, and that means working with governments and partners to reduce any protections and practices and encouraging the lowering of import tariffs, relaxing import quotas, so the Caribbean is open to trade and investment. And as we all know, more trade equals more opportunities, and more opportunities equals more jobs. It's as simple as that. We're also here to enable Caribbean businesses to access our UK supply chain to make their offering, help them make their offering more competitive and more compliant with the latest worldwide requirements. And we do this by supporting UK companies to win business here in Antigua and Barbuda and the region. We also support the increase of the flow of investment, and it's very important, certainly intercultural communication is very important here. So we want to increase UK companies' knowledge and understanding of the Caribbean region and of the opportunities here. It is a great place to do business, not just come on holiday. And with our shared legal and regulatory practices, and of course our common language, it's actually a very good place for UK businesses to come and do business. We promote, the DIT team here in the Caribbean actively promote these opportunities using our export opportunity portal, which you can find on the gov.uk website. And my country teams also issue newsletters, targeted emails, and deliver roadshow events and webinars such as these. So make sure that you're on you register with us and you're on our mailing list to get these opportunities. And just briefly, I want to talk a little bit about Antigua and Barbuda and the week we've just had, because it's been extremely fruitful. We're clear that specifically there are opportunities for us to work together in partnership, both with government and the private sector, as Antigua and Barbuda repositions itself as being a maritime hub, and as High Commissioner Hill has mentioned, making sure that that transshipment element is a really important part of that. Projects we've been discussing this week include port and marine development, vessels provision and operation, and cruise liner facilities, to name but a few. But the other important sector, I think, where there are opportunities for UK experience is that it's very clear that Antigua recognises the need for a sustainable mix of renewable energy supply. At the moment, they're focusing on wind and solar, and the need for access for effective battery storage for all households to enable them to access reliable energy as they unfortunately experience the results and the impacts of hurricanes and other natural disasters caused by climate change. So we're going to be scoping these opportunities further, working in partnership with Antigua and Barbuda Government and Antigua and Barbuda Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Please contact myself or Sherry Ann Blackett if you wish to know more. And I will hand back to Sir Hugo. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Laura. We're now going to move on to the next bit of business, and the participants have all been tasked to comment within a minute. Climate change is a challenge for us all. The effects of our actions on the environment are now core deciding factors for businesses and their customers. Sustainability is ever present in discussions, but how do we ensure it is meaningful and impactfully implemented? So first I'm going to ask Darwin Telemack, Chief Executive Officer, Antigua and Barbuda Port Authority. Do we have Darwin?
Unmuted?
Yes, we do. Darwin.
Yes. Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. We can't see you, but we can hear
great. You. I am trying to figure out why that is. Good morning, everyone. So Hugo, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. The Minister of Trade, Darren, we are very happy to be speaking with you. Basically, I'd like to highlight Antigua's interest in ensuring that we too participated in ensuring that we are prudent in managing the aspect of our existence that is most quintessential to our survival, both from a physical perspective and economic perspective, because our environment is what we live off of, what we sell, and what attracts people to us. So it's very important that we maintain a very vigilant approach to managing the environment at the highest level. The Antigua Port Authority, we have just embarked on building a brand new port, and at the port we are looking for various ways to ensure that we can enhance the whole concept of carbon reduction. We're doing so by looking to adopt the Belgium principles, where we want to eliminate all carbon vessels from entering the harbor. So we're moving to where we want to have ships turn off the engines, we tow them in with electric tugs and power them up when they come alongside with green, clean energy, and thereby transforming Antigua's capacity to add to the climate, an environment where ships can be powered with green energy and at the same time earn carbon credits while they pay a small fee to the Antigua Port Authority. It's an innovative way that we are looking to enhance that. As you know, marine traffic contributes significantly to the deterioration of the environment, and that we believe that this is a step in that right direction. There are a bunch of other initiatives that we intend to do at the Port Authority, and I will take my 1 minute and allow for another opportunity to share some of those thoughts with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Darwin. And I just to make the point that if you want to be seen, you have to turn yourself on. We can't do that remotely. So you have to be responsible for your own image. But it was very nice to hear you, if not to actually see you, Darwin. Terry Byrne, I can see you there, a consultant of Global Bank of Commerce Limited. But can we hear you?
I hope you can hear me, Sir Hugo.
We can.
Good. All right, Sir Hugo, Minister, High Commissioner, and Laura, we appreciate the opportunity to engage with you today. Global Bank of Commerce is a 40-year-old Caribbean managed and operated international bank. And like banks globally, we are totally signed up to the SDG protocols that the banking sector, financial sector is now engaged in. Global Bank is engaged earlier this week with the DIT, with Laura Ferguson's team. I think we exchanged many interesting ideas. We are also engaged with the Sustainable Markets Initiative, working with their Caribbean desk, and they are identifying many opportunities where we believe that we can jointly find opportunities in the blue and green economies. Clearly, Antigua's focus is very much on the blue economy, and what we're hoping will come out of today's discussions are opportunities that businesses within the West Midlands can bring to Global Bank of Commerce, that we can look at, identify their viability, their opportunity, their contribution to either economic, social, or carbon reduction opportunities, and where we can work with them, providing finance as necessary. We're also focused on PPPs. We recognize the importance that PPPs must bring benefits, the expected benefits, both social and financial, to the government, while at the same time providing the opportunity for the private sector to gain the returns it would hope for. So yes, we're very focused on the blue and green economies, and we're looking forward to this discussion today.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Terry, for that. Very interesting indeed. Now moving on to Ambassador Gregory Georges, who is the Chief Executive Officer, West Indies Oil Company Limited.
Yes, good morning all, and indeed pleasure to you, Squire. Pleasure to be here, Minister Darren Henry, and obviously Ambassador High Commissioner Karen Mayhill. Thank you very much for inviting me to this forum. Yeah, I'm the CEO of West Indies Oil Company. We've been in business for almost 60 years. We were started off as a refinery in the 60s, ran until 1976, and since then the refinery closed in 1983. So since then we've been essentially a marketing operation. We bring in 100% of Antigua's petroleum requirements, heavy fuel oil, jet fuel, gasoline, diesel, and LPG. And we're all aware of what's happening with climate change and the existential threat that it presents to our country. Ambassador High Commissioner here talked about hurricane season coming, right? So we're well aware of what the essential threat is. So we obviously have that obligation that we are in the process of transitioning our business. Our key objective is to really maintain our market share in terms of the energy sector. So we are transferring into an energy business, and not necessarily West Indies Oil, but energy. And in this regard, it's obviously a challenge in terms of funding, but we got to start somewhere. So we're actually in the process of building out a 5-megawatt solar powered plant. We also have partnered with our Department of Environment, and we're going to be starting managing assets. There's a SLIM project, which essentially is charging stations. We're in the process of developing skills to manage those assets. There's a wind turbine project coming on stream as well, that's 4 megawatts. And we'll also be doing an asset management program with them. So I would say that we're actually in the process now of formulating our strategy for the entrance into really the energy sector. And it's clearly a challenge. I think some of the issues we have is that some people, especially countries, are transitioning, and some are in and some are out. You know, it really has to be a concerted effort by all to make that change. There's no reason why energy costs in the region can't be similar to what they are in the UK or the US, right? We have an abundance of sunshine that we have total domain over, and we need to, ensure that our cost of energy is affordable and reliable. And we certainly hope that forums like this will help us achieve these objectives.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I hope your aspiration goes wider than that, to have cheaper energy costs than we currently have here in the UK. But that's another issue. Thank you very much indeed. Brian Nunes, now Chief Executive Officer of Newbeck Energy Conservation Products Limited. Brian.
Thank you. Good morning to all on the panel. We're a 40-year-old company in solar water heaters in Antigua, and we have seen in the last, probably in the last 5 years, that the cost of materials constantly going up and making it a bit of an expense for customers who would like to switch to solar energy. Now, our solar systems are basically for hot water. The idea was to try and eliminate as much electric heaters, which draw quite a bit of wattage, probably taking an average of 3,500 watts for each element that's in an electric heater. So when we started the company, the idea was to try and eliminate as much as possible of electric heating. Anything with an element draws quite a bit of energy. We have seen since the pandemic, it has really escalated and it has put our business as a challenge because, as I said, because of the expense of purchasing these products from overseas. Unfortunately, we do not deal very much with England. Most of our purchases is through the US. And so I can't talk too much on England, on the cost of shipping, but I can tell you out of the US, it is really tripled in price, probably in the last 2 years. And as I said, it really has put the cost of equipment very, very expensive. So it is a challenge for us to find ways of keeping the costs down where it's affordable to our customers. So it would be good to have some kind of feedback on your shipping costs coming out of England, or even like we buy tanks and panels out of the US, what it costs out of England, so we can offer our customers a better price, so we can really keep solar water heaters on the market. When we started the business 40 years ago, there were probably about 4 solar companies on the island. I think from memory, we're probably down to about 2 right now, because a lot of companies just could not make it with the high costs, just increasing. So we hope that we can continue the service that we offer in Antigua and continue to give a good service to our customers with a reasonable price instead of using electrical or even gas heaters that are getting quite popular on the island. But for sure, we definitely want to see the solar water heater business continue. I think it's very important. If we're thinking of going green, because we need to keep our kilowatts down as much as possible. We feel that homes must be very efficient in what wattages that they're using in the homes. Things like air conditions, going with inverter type air conditioning units that do not draw as much as the old type air conditioning units. So those are important for us to keep us going green, for sure.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much indeed. That's excellent. I'm now going to move on to the British participants, or participants from the UK. I'm going to first of all ask Nick Lambert, who is a co-founder of NLA International.
Thank you very much, Sir Hugo. It is fortunate that Nick is a co-founder and I'm one of the other co-founders.
Well, we've got Jonathan Turner instead. Even better.
So Nick has just been chairing a conference in the Netherlands and has become a little bit snarled up in the travel coming back. So has lost his connectivity. But on behalf of NLA International, as one of the other co-founders, I'm very happy to share some thoughts on blue economy. It is a specialization for us. We're a blue economy solutions business. We do have some activity currently in the Caribbean, but as the name suggests, the international part of the name suggests, we have projects running all over the world, and that's a real joy because it allows us to transpose ideas. And I'm a great believer in the opportunity to cross-pollinate ideas between countries, between organisations, and I suppose that chimes quite well with the Commonwealth as we see those activities permeate throughout the Commonwealth. There are some common themes, some common challenges that we observe with large ocean nations in particular, for all the benefits of being a small island surrounded by water. There are all the economic benefits that are out there in that sort of tantalizing plenty. There are some challenges in capitalizing upon them that we're seeing around the world as blue economy turns from a theory to a discipline of practice. And those challenges are coordinating blue economy activities to actually start to prioritize and build roadmaps that allow nations to, in a structured way, capitalize on those things, in a measurable way, capitalize on those things. So coordination and prioritization is a persistent issue, and I'd like to get a sense, I think, from as to whether that's something that Antigua and Barbuda observes as well. And turning strategy documents into reality is another challenge that we often observe. There's some great strategies, some great visions that we often observe, and then when we talk to people in governments, they say it's just getting traction, it's getting it to start. That's a challenge. And one of the reasons it's difficult to start is because it's really difficult to put a value on things. It's really difficult to say our blue economy is worth this. It'll be built up of these sectors. Those sectors require these investment packages. Those investment packages feel like this environmentally, feel like this economically, feel like this is a business plan, feel like this in terms of cultural and social inclusion. To get that clarity of storytelling is often a challenge, and it's something that we do lots of work to help with, and what we're doing with some Pacific islands at the minute, islands in the Pacific Islands. So several areas there to in terms of opening comment to give a flavour. So if you go.
Great, thank you, and thank you for stepping in for Nick as well. You've done it magnificently. And I mean, these questions are all very relevant because we've got a lot of people who have joined us today, not just from British companies from the West Midlands, from right across the UK. So I think we should bear that in mind, and that's important as well. Darren Jones, ESG Director, Solihull.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and it's fantastic to greet you from the West Midlands, the home of the Games this year, which is so important. I'm ESG Director of Solihull. We do ultrasonic anti-fouling. We stop barnacles and mussels growing on boats or on marinas, whatever. Why is that important for the blue economy? And actually, why is that so important for the wider world, and particularly these island states? Because if you're a container ship and you've got barnacles, 55% more fuel. That's 55% more carbon. If every ship in the world used ultrasonics, which is a current technology, it would be the equivalent of taking 30% of the carbon out of the German economy. It would be huge. 1% of all carbon would go overnight. So that's what we're about. Not only also reducing invasive species, which we know damages your aquaculture industry. So my message today to all of you really is that the entire challenge we have around around climate change is so often sort of put into the environment of, oh, we're going to talk about invention. We need to come up with new technologies, new ways. Actually, I think Lord Matt Ridley will tell you, innovation is a marriage of invention and adoption. The technologies already exist. We can absolutely get this carbon out of our economies. The technologies exist. They need adoption. And some of the things we can do both as Britain and both as Antigua, we're both flag nations for our shipping. regulate, suggest, enforce that we need to use new technologies that actually work, but also save money, because there's a message we need to get out there. The green economy is not just good, it can be cheaper than current technologies, and it will give commercial advantage. If we can do that, if we can work together, get that into Antigua and Barbuda, get that across the Caribbean from the UK and the other way as well, we, as a collective, as a Commonwealth, can actually change the blue economy. It's about saving money and saving the planet, not spending money and costing the earth.
Thank you, Darren, very much indeed. I want to have a word with you at some point. I'm an ambassador for the Seahorses Trust, so maybe there would be some cross-referencing on that. Thank you very much indeed. I'm Ajit Desapriya, who's Business Development Manager at GAC UK. Ajit, I think we have you somewhere. There you are.
Hi. So I'm representing Gulf Agencies. Actually, it's a global logistic company. So we founded 1957 in UAE. It's a Swedish company all over the world. So I'm representing the UK team. Actually, we have 24 officers in UK, based in UK, and we are covering now, moving our areas to Caribbean as well. So we have 2 officers in Trinidad, Tobago, and Guyana, and we are establishing another 1 office in Suriname. So I connected with DIT few months back. So then it little bit of going in a good way, seeing how UK and these Caribbean islands, the logistics services, how we can help them and how we can do them. And we identify a couple of clientele from UK working with these trade lanes. So my area to develop this sector with the UK team as well. So that's why I connected with the team. So any part of logistics or services related to marine or shipping or logistics services, so we are there to do some sort of a different mechanism with the customized services. So that's the part of game we are trying to do with the team who required our services. So we are there for that.
Thank you very much, Ajit. That's excellent. Thank you. Tom Morley, Business Development Manager, APEM Limited. Tom.
Thanks very much, Hugo. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, I'm the Business Development Manager at APEM. APEM are an environmental and remote sensing consultancy, and we provide a wide range of services. So I'm going to focus on digital aerial surveys that we support for the renewable industry and especially offshore wind. Work across Europe, Asia, into Australia, and also the US. And we support the developers and regulators on where to put wind farms. And I guess so to sort of tie it back to the question about how do you make sustainability meaningful and when it's implemented, that would be about you're choosing where to build a wind farm. So if you've got a large area around your island where you're looking at building wind farms, it's important that you're looking at where the species of birds are, marine mammals, and actually building those wind farms in the most sensible locations. So that's a very short introduction to APEM services, but looking forward to hear from the rest of the participants.
You don't get penalised for brevity, you get bonus points, Tom, so thank you. Because we've got a lot of people who want to participate in this. Michael Bowers, it's a CEM Energy Engineer, Wood. Do we have Michael Bowers?
Yes, hey, how are you guys doing? My name is Michael Bowers. I work with Wood Environment Infrastructure Solutions.
Michael, you haven't got your camera on, but that may be through choice.
Oh yeah, give me one moment here. Let me see.
There we
Hi,
are.
everybody. I had to pull over here. I'm kind of multitasking. So I was listening in, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak and introduce myself. I'm an energy engineer, work for Wood Environment Infrastructure Solutions, helping our clients reduce energy consumption, decarbonization, and identifying opportunities for resiliency and renewables as well. This is all great, exciting stuff to be listening in here, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what comes of it, and excited to help out and see where we may be able to assist.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're running a little bit considerably behind time, but we may have to do this all over again. But we're now going to move to the actual discussion, and thank everyone for having taken their parts and delivered their parts so well. So small island states at the forefront, as we've heard, the fight against climate change. What are the critical technologies and innovations, we've heard about some of them already, that need to be deployed to ensure that the environment is maintained, but development isn't penalized or interrupted? Perhaps Darwin and Ajit, you might like to take this one before I ask others for comment.
Yes, thank you again, Sir Hugh. I think that's a very relevant question for the business that we're in. As a matter of fact, we are small island states, but we are tied to the global supply chain. And a lot of the regulations that are being made globally actually do reach our shores directly through the ports. And some of the challenges we find relates to the issues of legislation and ensuring that the capacity to make the adjustments to the current legislation does exist. We are faced with the issue of competence. We do have some local competence in terms of the DOE, the Department of the Environment. Our excellent High Commissioner mentioned that we're hosting a annual general meeting here in Antigua this week. So I think the team here is doing a fantastic job. However, as small islands, we don't all possess the pieces that are required to ensure that we could actually build out a robust response to the development needs while ensuring that the climate concerns are met. And so I think having a framework where there is greater capacity sharing, greater collaboration with other entities would certainly help the region. And if first, it could be a regional effort where we don't all need to have all the pieces, but we could have a structure that allows for the relevant support to be accessible to the various governments. And I think that would go a long way in ensuring that governments would be more in line with following through on some of the regulations that exist. And so I'm thinking that as we build out, we first of all, our islands are not, we can provide lessons on climate impact because we see them all the time. When we look at the mitigating steps, we are steps behind because of some of the very things that I mentioned: capacity, finance, opportunities for integrating some of the ideas that we hear and we are presented with. And so I would say that small islands, if just to wrap it up, would be better served if we had access to expert support, access to the capacity to build out the legislation that could be integrated into what we have existing, and access to climate finance that would allow us to be able to afford initially the new technologies and ideas that are existing in some of the larger economies.
Thank you, Darwin. Ajit, do you want to add anything to that?
Sorry, actually nice to hear that, because I saw a lot of logistics situation and the port situations is opening up in the Antigua area. So is Caribbean region also developing a lot? We are seeing that. So as a logistic company, so we are very keen on that, and we are looking for some sustainable energy situations, like, okay, all the logistics, we are shipping and industry, we are there. So we also using the lot of new technology to minimize the carbon emission of a warehouse facilities like that. So then we can suggest something, okay, our management also willing to go for these kind of small islands and see what we can do, like what we did in Trinidad, Tobago, and the Guyana and the Suriname. So it's a good opportunity. So we will see in future which area we can see and which area we can develop together as a logistic company.
Okay.
We welcome you to Antigua, Jay.
Thank you very much. Definitely. I'm trying to travel Trinidad and Tobago around summer season. So we'll see if there's any opportunity. I will be there definitely.
Good. Does anyone else want to come in on that particular point?
If I can come in, Brian here, sorry.
Brian, yeah.
Okay, as a small island, we do need the development for sure, but we have to find a balance. I've seen in my short lifetime, the effects of development without proper planning, protection of our wetlands, protections of our removal of sand, because we are a tourist destination. We do advertise sand, sea, and sun. And I think the way we're removing the sand from our beaches, it's going to be a problem for the environment, for sure. Not just for the coastal, but for reefs and our fish around. So I think it's very important that we find that balance, as Mr. Telemack said, that we probably need some experts in here to give some advice, the best way forward on our development. Thank you.
So Hugo, if I could just make a quick comment.
Harry, yeah, please.
I think one thing that's very important to appreciate when we're talking about the blue economy is that, and small island states, that the SIDS globally represent about 1% of the world landmass, less than 1% of the global GDP, and less than 1% of the global population. But it represents more than 25% of the exclusive economic zone. In terms of impact, the small island developing states are bigger when it comes to the exclusive economic zone than the United States and France, which are the other two largest countries put together. So the opportunity to punch above our weight as small island states is very real. What we have to do is we have to have both use the technology that exists and new technology that's invented to utilize this space to really make an impact both on climate change and our economies. Thank you.
Okay, just want to make a comment on the blue economy as well. I think in our particular circumstances in Antigua, we need to de-link the blue economy from climate change in our circumstances. I mean, already we got a Minister of Blue Economy, we have a Minister of Energy, and we have a Minister of the Environment. And I think by trying to bring the two together, it's going to complicate matters. But I think the blue economy has to be de-linked, as I said, from the climate change issue.
Okay, but what we do know is that all this requires funding. All these projects require funding. And I think the UK is one of the Commonwealth's largest financiers. And so I'd like you all to think about how Antiguan companies can better access these existing resources, and how do UK companies better explore the opportunities in the Caribbean as a whole. I mean, Darren, what do you need? How can you be helped to take your technology to the market in Antigua and the Caribbean, for instance?
So there's a real mix there. What would really help is, I do think these island nations, they are the biggest victims when it comes to climate change. They're also the biggest victims if we increase the cost of shipping, because they rely on international shipping to deliver to them. So we can't, there's a perfect storm here. What we need to do is look at what technologies can reduce cost and reduce the impact on climate change, and regulate for them. Regulate for them. Why don't these island nations, which have the opportunity to be the most dynamic because they can move quickly, they're small enough, they've got small enough politics to do that, say, look, we're a flag nation, we are going to adopt the green technologies. So these shipping companies are going to be the greenest. They're going to be the ones that they talk out to the consumer, because ultimately the consumer is going to want, if I have something delivered by Amazon, I want it to be delivered green. Green doesn't have to mean expensive. You guys engage with the newest technology, the best technologies. New green technology should be cheaper than the incumbent, not more expensive. It's out there, engage with it, regulate for it. You will be the exemplars, the pioneers, and the leaders. And you will change the world, you will change your economies, and you will be bringing about the end of climate change. That's what you actually have in your gift. Use your dynamicism, use your regulation.
Okay. I've got another question here, which these questions interrelate really. That is, the transition to the blue economy is of paramount importance to the long-term growth of Antigua and Barbuda to reduce the over-reliance on tourism. And that's something right across the Caribbean. How can companies ensure that the transition to the blue economy remains sustainable while unlocking the investment potential in energy and resourcing? Brian, do you want to say something on that?
Sorry, I missed that, sorry.
Okay, well, I'll move to Nick and then you can come in later. Nick, do you want to say something? Oh, Jonathan, rather. We haven't got Nick stuck. Jonathan, do you want to say something on that?
I think there's thank you, Sir Hugo. This comment might be a bit round, touching on a couple of the themes here, but I think we've yet to tap into the investment potential of ecology in a sound way. So that's a strange thing for me to say, but the natural world is increasingly recognised as having a financial value, and I believe carbon credits have started it, but there are other financial values that could be traded more effectively from the natural world by sustaining it. And I think, having had some conversations with people within the IMF recently about the way in which you can start to calculate the carbon value of biodiversity at large, so not just the classic forest or not just the classic seagrass or mangrove as we talk about in blue economy sectors, but also the carbon density within ocean fauna. And there was a statistic shared at COP26 in November around the value of a blue whale and how you can think about that carbon valuation. You then think about mitigating climate change risk, and you look at case studies from Colombia where hurricanes have come through and totally destroyed the level of biodiversity. The areas where that destruction has been greatest have been where concrete has prevailed, where development has happened, and the areas that have been developed, less developed, and mangroves been retained, the damage has been less and the biodiversity has been sustained. Now, I've looked at technologies that are being applied in places, and there's one here in the UK that I particularly like, called sea hives. It's effectively a physical catalyst for increasing biodiversity that's made out of recycled fishing nets and ghost gear. So you're taking ocean plastics out, you're applying it into ocean environments to increase biodiversity where development's happening, where concrete structures are being built. You apply these sea hives, as they're called, which are effectively a nurturing environment for biodiversity of different types. And you're therefore creating a resilience to climate change using recycled materials, increasing biodiversity, which has a carbon value. And I think really, I know that's a little bit of a long story, but I think that's the story of the blue economy. It's cross-sector potential rather than individual sector potential. And I think that's sort of joined up thinking that I'm advocating, and I like to transpose and join these ideas up together and share them with people to inspire a different shape of thinking.
I don't think you'll find anyone dissenting from that view. Tom Morley, can I ask the same question to you?
Yeah, thanks very much, Sir Hugo. And yeah, just to follow on really from what Jonathan was saying, I think there's so much to learn from the development of renewables in the UK that British companies can support other nations on this. And if you talk about sort of tourism and energy, it leads exactly what Jonathan was saying. It's about net gain. When you're developing these wind farms, it doesn't have to be a loss of biodiversity in that area. And obviously, if you have marine mammals, talked about whales and things like this, you don't want to reduce your natural capital and the nature there, because that's a big part of tourism. And it's learning how, if you build a wind farm, you can do things in the structure to make artificial reefs, bring more wildlife to the area. So I think there's a lot of learning around energy that we've gone through in the UK from the early wind farms, and we can build much better, more sustainable ones. And it's it's good for countries, if you're later in that development path, to learn from those lessons, engage with British companies and become more sustainable.
regrettably, we're moving to that point of the day when I'm going to have to bring this to a conclusion. Otherwise, you'll all miss your next appointments. But before we do, I would like to ask Laura if she would like to, Laura Ferguson, that is, if she's still with us from Antigua and Barbuda, to say what she feels about all this. And then I'm going to ask the High Commissioner similarly. And then I'm going to ask the Trade Envoy, Darren Henry, just to sign off at the end of it. So Laura, over to you.
I mean, I think to summarise, everything we're saying here is no surprise to anybody on the line. For me, it's about how do we take a lot of our talk and put it into reality. So how do we match UK capability with Antigua Barbuda needs to do that in a cost-effective way? I think what I was actually on television this morning, and one of the things I was talking about was the UK flexibility of being able to both share technology, innovation, but also information, knowledge sharing, and intelligence, so that we build capacity here in Antigua Barbuda and we leave that behind. And I think it's one of the most sustainable things we can possibly do for all SIDS is to share our experience and our knowledge so that it can be adapted for local circumstances. I'd like to see way more UK companies operating in this region here in Antigua Barbuda. And I think there's huge opportunity for those companies. I need you to talk to us. Let's matchmake. Let's put you together with some of the people that you've heard from today and beyond. And I think you can really help make a big difference to Antigua Barbuda and all the SIDS in the Caribbean.
Well, that's great, Laura. That's very enthusiastic. You're going to come back, hopefully fizzing with ideas, and going to pass those on. And between you and Darren Henry and the ministers, we will see an uptick, as they say, hopefully, in bilateral trade, or actually cross-Commonwealth trade and Antigua and Barbuda. That's what we all hope for. That's what we're all aiming for, isn't it, High Commissioner?
Indeed it is, Sir Hugo. And I just want to piggyback on something that Darwin said about the importance of seeing the Caribbean as a regional diamond in the rough, so to speak. And whether it's the Eastern Caribbean states grouping or the CARICOM grouping or the CARIFORUM grouping, UK businesses really need to recognize that entering our countries is actually entering the region, where economies of scale are multiplied because of the sort of links that we already have as a region. And may I just remind people that the Caribbean's integration story is perhaps one of the best examples of South-South integration anywhere in the world. And I think many parts of the developed world could actually learn from the Caribbean in the way that we've actually managed a single currency, a central bank, a single judicial system, procurement of pharmaceuticals as one group, and even the way our port is set up to be a hub for the Eastern Caribbean. There's lots of synergy to be learned there. So please, when you approach the Caribbean, in particular the small islands, don't see it as 90,000 people here and 100,000 people here, but see it as a region that is ripe for UK investment and a great chance for the UK to amplify its voice there and in both directions. And I look forward to seeing how this moves on from here, Laura and your team in particular. You're on mute, Sir Hugo. Sir Hugo, you're on mute, I think.
Sir Hugo, you're muted.
No, I wanted to say, High Commissioner, thank you for all your continuing enthusiasm and support. And I'm just going to say that that I think we're going to move now. Something odd's happening to my screen. To the Trade Envoy, Darren. Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here, Sir Hugo.
Something's come up on my screen, which is fine. Darren, some of you promoted Darren to minister. He's not a minister. He's a trade envoy. We don't want him to be just a minister. He's got work to do right across the Caribbean, and he's just the man to do it. And hopefully, having heard you all this afternoon, he's also got some good ideas. Darren, over to you.
Thanks very much, Sir Hugo. So, well, thanks for the promotion anyway, even if it's in name only. But you can see behind me, I'm actually in the Midlands. This man in tights on the flag behind me is for Nottinghamshire. I'm a member of Parliament in Nottinghamshire, so very close to Birmingham anyway. Just thinking about what's been said, a general theme that's come up is finance. So what I would say is it's a key theme. You know, do consider things like UK export finance. Think about that. And as Darren Jones, I think, mentioned, green technology does not have to be expensive, and that's just something to think about as another challenge for us. So Tom Morley mentioned that we've made some early learnings in the UK as well, which I think could be to the benefit for the Antigua and Barbuda markets. You know, we've been doing some offshore. Our Prime Minister Johnson has said, you know, we want to be the Saudi Arabia for offshore wind. You know, it's something that we're getting into, and we've all clearly made some, you know, discoveries along the way and things that we would like to do better. I'd also like to stress that, you know, the common issue we have with renewables is storage and distribution, and these are challenges that we've been grappling with, and I'm sure we can join together and help each other on that front. And as another example, I know of a company which I put forward to the Department of International Trade that, due to our fantastic maritime heritage that we've got in the United Kingdom, often forgotten, this particular company can tow out a wind turbine into an offshore location, for example, in the Caribbean, and then if we get to hurricane season, it could be towed inland again. So, you know, this is something great for resilience. So these are the sorts of things that we can join together, which, you know, considering that, you know, the Caribbean are very different markets to each other within the different islands that are within the Caribbean, potentially smaller markets, working with our small to medium enterprises and some of our, you know, money that we've already put into research and development and technology to try and partner up to scale up and actually provide some solutions and work as partners. So please do consider the United Kingdom for that. And also, I'd just like to reiterate that if you wish to join in on events, UK House in Birmingham, then do please visit the website. And I'll continue to say that, you know, the Caribbean, Antigua and Barbuda, for example, are great places to do trade, not just to go on holiday. Thank you.
And Darren, that's why we want you to stay as the trade envoy. I'm sure you will become a minister, but we need you. And get traveling, make them give you a big budget so you can actually go to the region when you can. Listen, Darren's right. Please participate in our events. There's something up on my screen. I hope it's on yours if you want to register for UK House events in Birmingham. Don't forget the Commonwealth Games. Hope to see some of you in Rwanda. But thank you very much indeed for giving us your time and sharing us your thoughts this afternoon. I found it fascinating, not that that matters, but I hope some of you have too, and useful. So thank you very much indeed for joining our latest webinar.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir Hugo. Thank you, High Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.